6 months pregnant, sitting in a five-star Manhattan restaurant, and staring at divorce papers I was never supposed to find. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the private investigator's report hidden behind them. A deep investigation into my family, my dead mother's maiden name, and secrets buried for 25 years. My husband's face went white when I asked him one simple question. What does Blackstone mean to you? In that moment, I realized the man I loved, the father of my unborn child, had never loved me at all. I was a target, a project, an investment ready to pay off. What I didn't know was that slap across my face that night would lead me to discover a billionaire brother I never knew existed, a criminal empire worth $50 million, and the horrifying truth about how my mother really died. This is the story of how I went from being a victim to becoming a weapon, and why the people who tried to destroy me never saw me coming. This story will show you that the people who manipulate you count on your silence, but when you finally speak your truth, you become unstoppable. If you've ever felt trapped, controlled, or voiceless, stay until the end, because this might change how you see your own power. She pushed a specific page from the report toward him. It was a deep dive into her family history, with a strange focus on her mother's side and her childhood in Alabama. As Richard read the page, all the color drained from his face. For the first time, his perfect corporate mask cracked. "Where did you find this?" he demanded. "In your briefcase," she repeated, "along with all your other secrets." A strange sense of calm washed over Sarah. It was the same focus she used to feel right before a big test back when she was a schoolteacher. "I want the truth, Richard, all of it." The silence between them was heavy and tight. A waiter tried to approach their table, but Richard waved him away with a flash of anger. "The truth?" Richard's voice turned dangerously soft. "The truth is that you are an ungrateful woman who has no idea how good her life is. Without me, you would still be a third-grade teacher in some forgotten town, barely making ends meet." "At least my life would be honest," she retorted. He let out a cold, humorless laugh. "Honest? You have been living a lie for 6 years, pretending this marriage was a fairy tale. You are a project, Sarah, an investment that is finally ready to pay off." The words felt like a punch to the gut. The baby inside her kicked, reacting to her racing heart. "What are you talking about?" she asked. "I am saying that sweet small-town girl routine does not work on me. I know exactly what you are worth, and it has nothing to do with your southern charm." For the first time, Sarah truly saw the man she married. He was not the charming lawyer who had won her over, but a cold-hearted businessman who saw her as nothing more than a transaction. "This is about money," she said, the realization dawning on her. "Everything is about money, Sarah, a concept you have never had to worry about, but that is about to change." "Is that a threat?" He leaned back, his smug smile returning. "I am simply explaining your reality. You sign the papers. You take the money I am offering, and you can raise our child in comfort. But if you fight me, you will learn how nasty a divorce can get, especially when there are concerns about a mother's mental stability." "Mental stability?" she repeated in disbelief. "Pregnancy hormones, emotional breakdowns, paranoid accusations about affairs," he listed calmly. "It is very troubling behavior for someone who wants to be a single parent." A cold dread filled Sarah's chest. This was not just a divorce. This was a calculated plan to control her, to take her child, and to make sure she could never expose his secrets. "You can't do this." "I can, and I will do whatever it takes to protect my interests," he said. "And my main interest is in ensuring my child is raised with proper values." The unspoken threat was suffocating. She looked down at the papers, her mind racing. There was a missing piece, something that explained why he had investigated her family so thoroughly. "The investigator's report," she said suddenly. "It mentions my mother's maiden name, Blackstone. Why did you need to know that?" Richard's confidence wavered for a split second. "Standard background check." "We were together for 2 years before we married," she argued. "You knew my history. Why investigate my mother's family now?" "You are overthinking it." "My mother died when I was 17, Sarah pressed on. "Her family was never in my life. So why do you care about the Blackstone name?" At the sound of that name, Richard froze completely. Sarah saw real fear in his eyes, a sight she had never witnessed before. "Richard, what does Blackstone mean to you?" Instead of answering, he lunged across the table and grabbed her wrist, his grip painfully tight. "Listen to me," he hissed. "There are things about your family that are better left alone, for your own good. Sign the papers and disappear. It is the smartest thing you can do." Sarah struggled against his grip. "You are hurting me." "I am trying to stop you from making a fatal mistake," he growled, "by keeping you away from people who will ruin you." The conversation was spiraling into chaos. She glanced around for help, but Richard's body shielded her from the view of other diners. "Let me go, Richard." "Not until you promise to stop digging," he demanded. "No, my family is my business. Your family is me and our baby," he snarled. "Nothing else matters." In that moment, years of being belittled and controlled boiled over into pure rage. She found a strength she never knew she had. "My family is not you," she said, her voice ringing with clarity. "And I am not your property." The slap was so fast she never saw it coming. The sharp crack silenced the entire restaurant. Sarah's cheeks stung, and she could taste blood in her mouth. Every eye in the room was now fixed on their table. Her private nightmare had just become a public spectacle. "Ma'am, are you okay?" A waiter was suddenly standing beside her, his face pale with shock. He was a tall man in his late 30s, with dark hair and kind green eyes that seemed strangely familiar. "I am fine," she whispered, though it was clearly a lie. The waiter turned to Richard, his expression filled with disgust. "Sir, I am going to have to ask you to leave." "This is a private conversation," Richard snapped back. But his usual authority was gone. "Not anymore," the waiter said, his voice firm but calm. "Security is on their way. You can walk out on your own, or they can help you." Richard scanned the room, finally seeing the dozens of judgmental stares. His perfect, powerful image was shattering before his very eyes. "This is not over, Sarah," he seethed as he stood. "You have no idea what you have just done." He threw his napkin onto the table and stormed out of the restaurant, leaving Sarah alone in a sea of strangers. The kind waiter returned. "Can I get you some ice for that?" he asked gently. Sarah could only nod, unable to speak. As he walked away, she noticed his confident, purposeful stride. He came back with an ice pack wrapped in a cloth, a small act of kindness in a world that had just been torn apart. He slid into Richard's empty chair without an invitation. "I know this is forward," he said, "but you should not be alone right now, and you definitely cannot drive." Sarah gratefully accepted the ice pack. "I will call a cab," she said. "What is your name?" "Sarah Mitchell," she replied, then hesitated. "Actually, Sarah Wheeler Mitchell, I guess." "I am not really sure what my name is anymore." At the name Wheeler, something changed in the waiter's expression. "Wheeler," he said slowly. "From Alabama?" Sarah stared at him. "How did you know that?" "Your accent, and—" He trailed off, studying her with an intensity that made her uneasy. "This might sound strange, but did you ever live in Fairfield? Now Sarah was completely rattled. "Who are you?" Instead of answering, he reached into his jacket and handed her a business card. Sarah's world tilted as she read the words. Blackstone Holdings, Marcus Blackstone, Chief Executive Officer. The name hit her like a physical blow. Blackstone. It was the same name from Richard's secret investigation file, the one that had made her husband turn white with fear. "I do not understand," Sarah whispered. Marcus Blackstone looked at her with those strangely familiar green eyes. "I think you do, Sarah," he said gently. "I think you have always known something was missing, like a piece of you was somewhere else." She stared at this man, a billionaire chief executive officer who had been serving her dinner, a stranger who knew her hometown and her maiden name, who looked at her as if he had been searching for her his entire life. "Who are you?" she asked again. "I am your brother," Marcus said simply, "and I have been looking for you for 25 years. 3 hours later, Sarah sat in her silent penthouse, the business card a heavy weight in her hand. The ice on her cheek had melted, but the impossible words from the man claiming to be her brother were not fading at all. Marcus Blackstone. The name played in her mind like a song she almost knew. The moment she got home, she had searched it online, and the results made her sink into a chair. Forbes magazine listed Marcus as the 38th richest person in America, with a net worth of $4.2 billion. His tech empire, which he had built from nothing, spanned 3 continents. The photo showed a man with her green eyes and their mother's determined jaw, looking confident in boardrooms. But in every picture, his expression seemed guarded, yet hopeful, as if he had everything he could want, but was still looking for one specific thing. Her laptop was open to a 2019 interview where he talked about growing up in foster care in Alabama after his mother disappeared when he was 13. He spoke about turning the pain of abandonment into business success. "I learned early that people who are supposed to love you can just leave," he had said. "But I also learned that love is not about blood. It is about choosing to show up for people." Sarah remembered when she was 17 and her own mother died. A car accident, her stepfather Tom had told her. 6 months later, they moved to New York, and Tom legally changed her name from Sarah Blackstone Wheeler to just Sarah Wheeler. He said it was for a fresh start. Now she wondered if there was another reason. The apartment suddenly felt like a movie set where she had been playing a part she did not understand. Richard's text message buzzed on her phone. "We need to talk. This does not have to be difficult." She deleted the message without a reply and called the number on Marcus Blackstone's card. He answered on the first ring. "Sarah," she said, "I need to ask you something. Do you remember a little girl who used to read under an oak tree behind a blue house on Maple Street?" The silence on the line stretched on. When Marcus finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "You had a book about a princess who saved herself. You read it so many times the cover fell off." Sarah closed her eyes, a memory surfacing of an older boy who would sometimes bring her lemonade. Her mother used to call him her guardian angel. "That was you," she whispered. "That was me," he confirmed. "I was 15, working at the grocery store. I always checked on you on my way home. Mom said you were too little to understand why I could not live with you. But you are my brother." "Half-brother," Marcus corrected softly. "Same mother, different fathers. Mine was violent. Mom got us both away. But your father could give you a stable life she could not give me." Tears started to well up in Sarah's eyes. "Why did no one ever tell me?" "Because Mom made everyone promise to protect you from the truth. She was terrified my father would find us and hurt you to get to her. When she died, your stepfather honored that promise." He paused. "Tom Wheeler is a good man, Sarah. He moved you across the country and changed your name, Because he was genuinely afraid for you. My father was in and out of prison my whole life. Mom did not want you growing up in that shadow. Sarah thought of her stepfather, always kind but distant, and it all started to make a terrible kind of sense. The distance she had always thought was grief, she now realized, might have been guilt. Where's your father now? Our father, Marcus corrected. He is serving life without parole for murder. Has been for 8 years. The word murder struck Sarah like ice water. This is insane, she said out loud. All of it. This morning, I thought my biggest problem was being a new mom. Tonight, I find out my husband is planning to take my baby. My entire life is built on a lie, and my brother is one of the richest men in America, whose father is a convicted killer. Life has a way of revealing all its truths at once, Marcus said calmly. The question is what you want to do with those truths. Sarah looked around the expensive apartment that had never felt like a home. She thought of the divorce papers, the threats, and the bruises forming on her wrist from Richard's grip. I want to understand what is happening to me. That will require some difficult conversations, Marcus warned. Can you meet me tomorrow? My office, say 10 in the morning? What if Richard finds out? Sarah, I have been building this company for 15 years. If I cannot protect one woman from one narcissistic attorney, then I am not the businessman people think I am. For the first time in months, Sarah felt like someone was truly on her side. Okay, she said, her voice firm, but I have conditions. I want the complete truth about our mom and about your father. Sarah needed the truth, all of it. No more of Richard's protective lies. She had to understand what this meant for her baby, who could not become a pawn in some twisted game. Marcus's voice on the phone was gentle but certain. I give you my word, your child will grow up safe, loved, and free from our parents' mistakes. Family protects family. After they hung up, Sarah felt like she was shedding an old skin. She opened her laptop and searched for the connection between her husband's company and Blackstone Holdings. What she found turned her stomach. For 3 years, Richard had been waging a quiet war. The legal battles were not designed to win, but to drain her brother's resources and ruin his reputation. All those late nights and business trips were not about building their future. Richard had been methodically trying to destroy her brother's present. The baby kicked, and Sarah placed a hand on her belly. Do not worry, little one, she whispered. Your Uncle Marcus is going to help us. For the first time in months, it felt like a promise. The next morning, rain fell from a gray sky. Sarah stood outside the Blackstone building on Fifth Avenue, looking up at 91 stories of glass and steel that vanished into the clouds. The lobby was designed to make visitors feel small, but when Sarah gave her name, the security guard's attitude changed from professional to warm. Miss Mitchell, Mr. Blackstone asked me to escort you personally. The elevator ride to the 91st floor was silent, giving Sarah time to think. She had spent the night reading about Marcus Blackstone. The articles painted a picture of a man who had built an empire through ruthless intelligence, but she also found a thread of loneliness. He often spoke of creating second chances for people, and Sarah suspected he spent 15 years trying to save others because he could not save himself from the pain of losing his family. The elevator doors opened to a reception area that felt like a comfortable living room. A woman in her 50s stood up. Miss Mitchell, I am Helen, Mr. Blackstone's assistant. He is waiting for you. Marcus's office had a stunning view of Central Park, but the space felt lived in and personal, not corporate. There were family photos and a worn leather chair in a reading corner. Marcus stood with his back to her, looking out at the park. When he turned, she was struck by how much he looked like their mother. Thank you for coming, he said simply. Thank you for telling me part of the truth. He gestured to two chairs facing the incredible view. Between the chairs sat a folder that held the rest of her story. Actually, I would like to start with this, Sarah said, pulling out a photograph. It showed a young woman holding a toddler, while a slightly older boy stood beside them. This is the only picture I have of our mother with both of us. Marcus took the photo, his hands not quite steady. I remember this day. Mom had just bought you that dress with the pink flowers. I do not remember the dress, Sarah said, settling into her chair. But I remember feeling safe. Tell me what happened. All of it. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Our father, Victor Blackstone, was a troubled man. He was violent and an alcoholic. Mom tried to make it work, but by the time I was 10, she was planning our escape. Both of us? Sarah asked. That was the plan, but Victor found out. Sarah's chest tightened. What did he do? He beat me badly enough to put me in the hospital for a week. He told Mom that if she tried to leave with us, he would kill all three of us. You have to understand, Victor saw us as his property, not his children. Sarah thought of Richard's cold threats about custody. Different methods, but the same terrifying idea of ownership. So Mom chose to save one of us, rather than lose both, she said quietly. She took you and ran, promising she would come back for me when it was safe. But it was never safe. Marcus shook his head. Victor spent 2 years looking for you. He hired investigators and offered rewards. What changed? She asked. I did, Marcus said, his voice flat. When I turned 13, I was big enough and angry enough to fight back. He came home drunk one night, and I put him in the hospital. After that, he left me alone, but became more focused on finding you. He needed to teach our mother that taking his property had consequences, Marcus continued. He never found her. But he tracked down your stepfather, Tom Wheeler. Tom called Mom in a panic, saying someone was asking questions at your school. A chill went through Sarah. What did she do? She made another impossible choice. She told Tom to take you, disappear, and change your name. She said Victor would use you to hurt her and then kill all of you. Tom truly loved you. He gave you his name and a life where Victor could never reach you. And what about you? Sarah asked, her eyes filling with tears. We agreed the safest thing was for me to go into foster care. The plan was for Mom to hide with you until Victor finally stopped his search. But that never happened. Victor was arrested for assault 6 months later, then again for robbery. For the next 4 years, he was in and out of prison, always sending threats, always making it clear that finding you was his only goal. Then, when you were 17, Mom died in a car crash. It was sudden and tragic. Marcus's tone made Sarah look at him. You do not think it was an accident, do you? I think Mom was worn out from 5 years of hiding, of looking over her shoulder. I think she was rushing in bad weather to meet someone claiming to have news about Victor. I believe someone set her up. I have never proven it, but her accident always felt too convenient, too perfectly timed. Sarah felt a wave of nausea. You believe our father had her killed? Our father, Marcus repeated. And yes, it is possible. Victor never admitted it, but he also never acted surprised that she died just as she was planning to reunite with us. The baby kicked, making Sarah gasp. Marcus grew concerned. Are you all right? Just trying to process that my mother may have been murdered by the man who hunted me for years. Marcus took her hand. Sarah, Victor cannot hurt you now. He is serving a life sentence without parole and has no way to find you. You are safe, but Richard knows who I am, she whispered. He knows the Blackstone name, and that, Marcus said, brings us to the question that has kept me up at night. How does your husband know secrets about our family that took me years to uncover? Sarah thought about Richard's strange reaction to her family name, his threats, his confidence. I think, she said slowly, my marriage was never about love. It was about getting access to something, But what? Marcus opened a folder and showed her a document. When I built my company, I created a special rule. It allows any direct blood relative to claim a major share of the company if they meet certain conditions. What kind of conditions? Marriage, children, proof of a genetic link. It was my way of making sure money could never tear our family apart again. Sarah stared at the paper as a horrible realization dawned on her. Richard married me to get your money through our child. I think someone told him that marrying a Blackstone heir would lead to a massive payday. The question is, who told him? Sarah remembered how Richard, while generous, controlled every aspect of their lives, especially their finances. He was playing a long game, she realized, years invested in a relationship he thought would make him incredibly rich. If you had claimed your inheritance, community property laws would have given him hundreds of millions of dollars in a divorce. The scale of his betrayal was staggering. She had loved a man who only saw her as a bank account. But if he divorced me first, she asked, before I knew about you, he could claim you hid assets during the marriage and argue for a larger settlement. It was actually a very clever plan. A sudden, intense anger flared inside Sarah. He was going to steal my inheritance and my child and make me thank him for it. That seems to be the plan, yes, until you found the papers. What now? Marcus smiled, and for the first time, he looked truly dangerous. Now we find out who has been feeding Richard information, and we make sure anyone who tries to use a Blackstone learns why that is a terrible idea. Sarah looked at her brother, seeing the determined boy he once was. I want to help, Sarah. You are 6 months pregnant and in the middle of a divorce. This is my life they have been controlling. This is my child they plan to use. I am not sitting on the sidelines. Marcus saw the resolve in her expression. You have Mom's eyes, he said softly, and her backbone. All right, we do this together. But we do it smart, and we do it safe. The first step is to move you somewhere Richard cannot find you. I have a secure place that is completely private. I cannot just disappear. I have appointments. All of that can be handled with much better security, Marcus insisted. Sarah, I have spent 25 years wondering what happened to my sister. I am not losing you now. Sarah thought about Richard's cold, calculating threats and nodded. Okay, she said, but I want to know everything. No more secrets. Agreed. But first, I want you to meet someone who has been helping me search for you. A private investigator named Detective Maria Santos. She has some theories about how Richard got his information. As if on cue, the office door opened. A woman in her 40s walked in, carrying a thick file. She had an expression that said she was about to deliver bad news. Miss Mitchell, she said, we need to talk. Detective Maria Santos had a presence that commanded the truth. She sat down and opened her file like she was handling delicate evidence. Before we begin, she told Sarah, you need to know that what I am about to say will change your view of everyone in your life. Are you ready? I do not think I have a choice, Sarah replied. There's always a choice. You could walk away, take the money Marcus is offering, and disappear. A lot of people would call that the smart move. And would you? Maria's smile was thin. I have never been called smart, just thorough. She slid a photograph across the table. Do you recognize this man? Sarah looked at the picture, and her world spun. That is my stepfather, Tom Wheeler. It was taken 3 weeks ago, right outside Richard's office building. The implication was like a physical blow. Tom has been talking to Richard? More than talking. My sources say Tom Wheeler has been giving Richard detailed information about your family for over 2 years. Sarah stared at the photo, unable to connect the man who had raised her with this betrayal. That is impossible. Tom protected me. He moved us. He changed my name. He did, Maria agreed. And he has been terrified ever since that he made the wrong choice. Marcus leaned in. What do you mean? Tom has carried 25 years of guilt over your mother's death. He blames himself for not protecting her, for taking you so far away that your mother died all alone. Then 2 years ago, Marcus said, his expression darkening, someone approached Tom with a proposition. It was not Richard, but someone claiming to represent his interests. They told Tom they had located me and were working on a family reunion. They needed information about you and our mother to make it happen. Sarah felt sick. And Tom believed them? Tom wanted to believe them. He had been following my career for years, hoping for a way to reconnect you safely. He saw this as a chance to finally do the right thing, so he gave them everything they wanted. He was manipulated. Your stepfather told them everything, Sarah, Marcus said, his voice heavy. He was scared. He spilled everything he knew. Your name, your location, your marriage, my career. He thought he was helping to mend your family, but he just gave Richard the ammunition to destroy it. Maria added, It gets worse. Once Tom started talking, they kept asking questions. They wanted to know about your mother's last days and every detail of her death. Sarah was confused. Why would they care about that? Marcus and Maria shared a knowing look. Because Victor Blackstone is still dangerous, even in prison. He runs a criminal network from his cell, and his sons from his first marriage are making sure no one challenges their inheritance. The baby kicked, a sharp jolt. Victor had sons? 2 of them, Marcus confirmed. Career criminals who have been waiting 25 years for him to die. They want to inherit whatever assets he hid before he was convicted, Maria explained. What assets? Sarah asked. That is the million-dollar question, literally. Maria produced a document. Victor Blackstone was a monster, but he was a smart one. He hid a fortune in accounts that no one has ever found. It's money from his life of crime that the authorities never recovered. Marcus stood perfectly still. How much money? Estimates range between $10 and $50 million, Maria said. That is enough to make people do terrible things to remove any competition. Sarah struggled to breathe. Competition? Like me and my baby? Exactly, Maria confirmed. Under the law, Victor's biological children have a claim to his estate. Richard was not just after your money. He was positioning your child to claim a piece of Victor's hidden fortune, too. Richard was playing every angle, Maria continued. Marry into the family, get access to Marcus's legitimate wealth, and then stake a claim to Victor's criminal empire through his child. Sarah looked at Marcus, seeing her own terror reflected in his eyes. So who are we up against? At a minimum, Marcus said, Victor's 2 sons and their crew, Richard and his partners, and probably some very nasty people Victor has owed money to for decades. The scale of it was suffocating. She thought she was escaping a cheating husband, but she had stumbled into a criminal conspiracy that spanned generations, all over millions of dollars. What about Tom? She asked softly. Tom is filled with regret and is absolutely terrified, Maria answered. He tried to stop, but they have enough on him to ruin his life if he doesn't cooperate. We have to help him, Sarah insisted. We will, Marcus said firmly. But our first priority is keeping you safe. If Victor's sons find out Richard's plan is failing, they will look for more direct ways to solve their problem. More direct than what? Sarah asked, a new dread creeping in. Maria and Marcus exchanged another look. Maria reluctantly pulled out one last document. This is a timeline, she said. It shows some interesting coincidences. Sarah looked at the list of dates, her confusion growing. I do not understand. Your mother's car accident happened 2 days after Victor's final appeal was denied, Maria pointed out. Richard met you 6 months after my company went public. And your stepfather was first contacted right after Victor's sons were released from prison. You think this has been planned for years? Sarah whispered. I think this has been planned since the day your mother died, Marcus said. I think Victor's sons have been watching our family for decades, waiting for their chance. Richard was either a convenient pawn or he has been working for them all along. Sarah felt sick. So, everyone in my life has been lying to me? Not everyone, Marcus said gently. Tom loved you, and he tried to do the right thing, and now you have family who will do whatever it takes to protect you. What does that mean? Sarah asked. It means you disappear, Maria said, leaning forward. New identity, secure location, and 24-hour protection until the baby is born, and we have neutralized every single threat. How long will that take? Sarah asked. Months, maybe longer. Sarah imagined spending her pregnancy in hiding while others fought her battles. The thought was both a relief and a prison. What if I do not want to disappear? What if I want to fight back? Then you put yourself and your baby in danger, Marcus said bluntly. These people have already killed once, Sarah. They will not hesitate to do it again. You really think they killed my mother? She asked. I think your mother's accident was incredibly convenient for them, he replied. Sarah placed a hand on her belly, feeling the steady rhythm of her baby's movements. She finally understood this was not just about her anymore. An innocent child deserved to grow up safe, free from the violence that had haunted her own life. Okay, she said, her voice firm. I will disappear, but I want updates, and I want a say in how we end this. I will not spend my life looking over my shoulder because we were too afraid to solve the problem for good. What are you suggesting? Marcus asked. I am suggesting it is time the Blackstone family stopped running from its past and started fighting back. A fierce smile spread across Marcus's face. Now you are talking like a Blackstone, he said. The safe house was a massive estate in the Hamptons. It should have been paradise, but after 3 weeks of isolated luxury, Sarah felt like a caged animal. You are pacing again, Dr. Elizabeth Hartman observed. Marcus had hired the obstetrician to make house calls twice a week. I am pregnant, not a prisoner, Sarah retorted, continuing her path around the room. I am going crazy just sitting here while everyone else runs my life. Your brother is trying to protect you, the doctor said gently. My brother is trying to control a situation that has been out of control for 25 years, Sarah corrected. Dr. Hartman closed her chart and studied her. Tell me about the nightmares, she said. Sarah stopped. For weeks she had been dreaming of her mother driving through a storm, calling her name just before the crash. They are just stress dreams. Trauma can show up in many ways, especially during pregnancy, Dr. Hartman explained. You are not having a breakdown. You are having a normal reaction to discovering your life was built on a foundation of lies. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Sarah sank into a chair, the exhaustion finally hitting her. How can I take control when I do not even know what I am fighting? Then maybe it is time to stop fighting their battles and start fighting your own, the doctor suggested. You are here because your brother wants you safe. But what do you want, Sarah? If you could write the ending to this story, what would it be? The question echoed in her mind. For so long, she had been reacting to other people's choices and plans. I want my child to be free, she said at last. Free from the violence and fear that ruled my family. Free from people who see a baby as a bargaining chip. That is a good start, the doctor encouraged. What else? I want the truth, Sarah said. All of it. About my mother, the money, and who has been pulling the strings of my life. And what do you want for yourself? For Sarah, not as a mother, or a sister, or a victim? The question surprised her. She had spent so many years defined by others that she had forgotten to ask herself that. I want to matter, she said quietly. For 6 years, my husband treated me like a possession. I want to be valued for who I am, not for what I can give him. But is that even possible now? Sarah glanced around the gorgeous house that felt more like a cage, with bodyguards at every door. Dr. Hartman's voice was gentle. What does taking control look like to you? I do not know, Sarah admitted. I do not have the power to fight people like this alone, but your brother does, the doctor reminded her. The real question is, will you join the fight or just watch from the sidelines? Just then, her phone buzzed. It was Marcus. His voice was tight with worry. Sarah, we have to talk. Can Dr. Hartman listen in? Of course, what is wrong? Sarah said, putting the phone on speaker so Dr. Hartman could hear. Marcus did not waste any time. Richard is trying to have you declared mentally incompetent. He is building a case that you are unstable, paranoid, and delusional. He plans to argue that the stress of the pregnancy and learning about me has caused a complete psychological breakdown. He wants to prove you are an unfit mother. The words felt like a punch to the gut. He cannot do that. He can, Marcus warned, if he has enough proof, and he has been very careful about creating it. Dr. Hartman leaned closer. What kind of proof? Medical records about her anxiety, Marcus listed. He is twisting her accusations about his affair into paranoid jealousy. He even has witness statements about her emotional outbursts. Sarah felt a wave of nausea. He is going to use what happened at the restaurant, when I reacted to him slapping me, as proof that I am unstable. It is worse than that, Marcus continued. He is also going to claim my family's criminal history makes me a dangerous influence on you. He wants to use our relationship as evidence of your poor judgment. This is crazy, Sarah whispered. This is brilliant, Dr. Hartman corrected grimly. If he can convince a judge that you are suffering from severe depression, he could get full custody and control of all your money. Sarah started to tremble. How much time do we have? He filed the first papers yesterday. You have 30 days to respond. Can we fight this? Sarah asked. Yes, Marcus said. But you have to be seen. You have to be active in your own defense. No more hiding. Sarah thought of the isolated mansion that was supposed to be a safe house. It was a beautiful trap. Marcus, I have to come back to the city. Absolutely not, he shot back. It is not safe. It is not safe for me to look like I am running from my problems either, Sarah argued. If he says I am unstable, disappearing for weeks only helps his case. Dr. Hartman agreed. Sarah is right. To fight this, she needs to show she is living her life and making smart decisions. But the threats are real, Marcus insisted. Then we will deal with the threats while I live my life, Sarah declared. I cannot put my life on hold forever. You do not understand how dangerous they are, Marcus pleaded. And you do not understand how dangerous it is to let other people make all your decisions for you, she countered. Even people who love you. The line went silent. Finally, Marcus asked, What is your plan? My plan is to stop playing defense and start playing offense, Sarah said. Richard wants to use my family history against me. What if we use it for me instead? How? We take control of the story, she explained. Instead of hiding from the Blackstone name, we own it. We use it to expose everyone who has tried to use it for their own gain. He wants to paint me as an unstable woman, Sarah continued, who cannot handle the truth about her family. So what if I tell the world a different story, the story of a woman who discovered she had a long-lost brother and chose to fight for her family, not run from it? Marcus was quiet for a long time. That is a huge risk, Sarah. Once that story is out, you can never take it back. His case against me cannot be taken back either, she replied. At least this way I tell my own story. He does not get to tell it for me. What about the threats? Marcus asked. What about them? Sarah shot back. They have been hiding in the shadows for 25 years, using fear to control people. What happens when we turn on the lights, when the whole world is watching? Dr. Hartman smiled. That is not the thinking of an unstable woman. That is the thinking of someone who knows exactly what she's facing and has a strategy to win. Marcus, I am coming home, Sarah said, her voice firm. I have to be a part of this fight, not hiding from it. I need to do this in a way that shows strength, not fear. After a long pause, Marcus finally spoke. His voice was filled with something new, something that sounded like pride. Okay, sister, he said, let us go to war. Returning to the city was like entering a new reality. The apartment she had once shared with Richard was now a fortress, complete with reinforced doors, surveillance systems, and hidden panic rooms. This seems like a lot, Sarah commented, watching two men in expensive suits patrol the hall. We need to test the response time on these new security alarms, Marcus said, looking over a tablet filled with security data. It seems necessary. Maria's intel suggests Victor's sons are losing patience with Richard's slow legal games. They want to take more direct action. What does that mean? Sarah asked. It means they think getting rid of the competition might be easier than outsmarting them in court, he replied. Sarah placed a hand on her pregnant belly, feeling the baby kick. At 7.5 months, she felt like she was carrying a bowling ball. But her doctor insisted she and the baby were perfectly healthy, despite the incredible stress. Have you heard from Richard? She asked. Every day, Marcus said with a grimace. He calls, he texts, he sends flowers. He's playing the part of the worried husband whose pregnant wife is being led astray by dangerous people. And his legal case? Marcus's face darkened. It's stronger than we'd like. He has statements from your old coworkers questioning your judgment. He's also got medical records showing anxiety and mood swings, Marcus continued, and even neighbors who've noticed you acting differently. What kind of different? Sarah asked, her heart sinking. He claims you're paranoid and isolated, that you've abandoned your normal life. Of course, we can explain it's because you found out your husband was planning to divorce you and steal your inheritance. But Richard's lawyers are twisting it. They're telling the court it's proof you are mentally unstable, triggered by pregnancy hormones. Sarah hated how convincing Richard's lies sounded. What do we have to fight back with? Maria has built a strong case around Richard's lies and financial tricks, Marcus explained. We can prove he planned this divorce for years and married you under false pretenses. We can show he has been trying to break you down mentally to build his case. But will it be enough? She asked. Honestly, he said, I don't know. In family court, unless we can prove criminal fraud, it just becomes a he said, she said fight. And in that fight, Marcus added, your pregnancy and family history are being used against you. Sarah looked around the apartment, a place that once felt like a home, but now felt like a prison. She remembered the strategy she had pitched earlier. What if we don't wait for the court? She said. What if we go public first? Marcus pulled up a chair, shifting into strategic planning mode. I have been thinking about that. There are risks. Everything has risks, she countered. What are the upsides? They're big, he admitted. If we control the story, we can neutralize a few threats at once. First, we show the world you are clear-headed and rational, which completely undermines his claim that you're having a breakdown. Sarah nodded. What else? Second, we force Victor's sons into the open. Right now, they're hiding behind layers of people. If the Federal Bureau of Investigation starts looking into them publicly, Marcus continued, they have to either back off or make a move that will get them arrested. And third, We could protect other women in the future. Once a story like this is public, it makes it much harder for predators to use the same playbook again. A sense of purpose washed over Sarah. I want to do it, she said firmly, but I want to do it my way. What does that mean? He asked. I want to tell the whole story, not just about Richard's lies or Victor's crimes. I want to talk about the high cost of family secrets and how important it is for women to take back control of their own stories. Marcus leaned in, intrigued. Go on. How many women are stuck in horrible marriages because they feel trapped? She asked. How many families fall apart over secrets that were meant to protect them but only ended up hurting them? So you want to make this bigger than just us, Marcus said, understanding. I want to make it meaningful, she corrected. If I am going to risk my life and my baby's future, it has to be for more than just a custody battle. Just then her phone rang. It was an unknown number. She almost ignored it, but a strange feeling made her answer. Hello? Sarah? It's Tom. The voice of her stepfather sounded weak and old. Hearing him brought up a storm of feelings. Love, anger, and deep sadness for the man who had raised her, but had also betrayed her. Tom, where are you? Somewhere safe, I hope, he said. I need to see you, Sarah. There are things I have to tell you. Things I should have told you a long, long time ago. Sarah glanced at Marcus, who was already alerting their security team. What kinds of things? Things about your mother's final days, he whispered. Things about why I really brought you to New York. And things about the people who have been asking about you, Tom added. Tom, are you in danger? We all are, sweetheart, he said. More than you realize. Can you meet me? Sarah was torn. She loved the man who had been a father to her for 25 years, but she knew he could be a trap. Tom, she said softly, I need you to know that I forgive you for talking to Richard's lawyers. I get why you did it. The silence on the phone was so long, she thought he might be crying. You always were too kind, Sarah, he finally said. Too quick to see the good in people. It's what made you a great teacher, but it's also what made you a target for men like Richard. A chill ran down her spine. What do you mean, men like Richard? I mean people who study you, he explained. People who learn exactly which buttons to push. Sarah, Richard did not meet you by accident. He was hunting you. The word hunting made the blood drain from her face. How? She managed to ask. He had been tracking you for months before you ever met, Tom said, his voice trembling. He knew your schedule, what you liked, your emotional weaknesses, your charity work, your love for teaching, your need to help people, no matter the cost to yourself. How do you know this? Because the men who came to me showed me pictures, Sarah, he confessed. Photos of you going to work, going to the grocery store, going to your book club. They were watching you long before Richard ever said hello. The truth hit her like a punch. The entire fairy tale romance, the charming lawyer who swept her off her feet, had all been a carefully planned operation. He had been stalking her. Tom, where are you? She pleaded. We have to get you somewhere safe. I do not think anywhere is safe anymore, he said. They know I'm talking to you. They know I will not help them anymore. Who is they? The people, he said, who believe Victor Blackstone's money belongs to them. There are people who have been waiting 25 years to collect on debts your father owed. Sarah felt the baby kick, responding to her terror. Tom, you must go to the nearest police station. Ask for protective custody. Tell them you have information on organized crime and your life is in danger. Do it now, Tom, please. I cannot lose you, too. The line went dead. She looked at Marcus, her brother-in-law, a new resolve hardening inside her. How quickly can we arrange a press conference? Does it go stitch on for himself? She asked. I will not spend my life hiding. I will not let my child grow up in a world where victims are forced into silence. Marcus saw the strength in her eyes and nodded. The press conference was set for Thursday. By Wednesday night, Sarah was having second thoughts. She stood in Marcus's office, staring at the city lights, wondering if she was making a huge mistake. The media response has been enormous, his assistant Helen said. Cable news network, National Broadcasting Company, the New York Times, and about 20 other outlets are confirmed. This will be a major story. Has Richard called? Sarah asked. His lawyer called 3 times, Marcus answered. He politely requested that you reconsider any public statements. In other words, he is panicking. He knows that once you tell your story, his claims about your mental health will fall apart. Just then, Maria Santos, their head of security, entered the office. Her expression stopped all conversation. We have a problem, she said. Sarah's stomach dropped. What kind of problem? The kind that means tomorrow is now much more dangerous than we thought. Maria spread photos across Marcus's desk. They showed unfamiliar men in dark cars, parked outside Blackstone Holdings properties. They were watching everyone. Marcus said the word grimly. Surveillance. Maria shook her head. More than surveillance. 3 of these men have criminal records linked to Victor Blackstone's organization. They are here to send a message. What kind of message? The kind that says powerful people do not like publicity. As Sarah's anxiety spiked, the baby kicked again. Is my family in immediate danger? She asked. We are talking about people who operate in the shadows, Maria said. National media attention makes them unpredictable. Marcus was already on his phone, giving quiet, urgent orders. When he finished, he said, We have options. Postpone the press conference, Maria urged. Go back to the safe house and wait for law enforcement. It could take months. No, Sarah protested. While we wait, Richard proceeds with his case to declare me incompetent and take my child. Is it better for my child to have a father who manipulated and abused their mother, a man who planned to steal their inheritance? Is it better for them to never know their true family? Marcus and Maria exchanged a look. They had already considered this. There is another option, Marcus said carefully. We move the press conference to a secure location, and we force everyone into the light at once. We will not just tell your story about Richard, he continued. We will tell the complete story about Victor's criminal organization and the threats against our family. We will expose everything. Sarah felt it all click into place. We make it impossible for them to hide anymore. Exactly, Marcus said. We put everything on the record, with federal agents present. Any move against us becomes a federal crime witnessed by dozens. Maria looked worried. That is incredibly risky. You are declaring war on killers. They declared war on us 25 years ago, Marcus replied. We are just finally fighting back. Sarah thought of her mother, who died in a car accident that was never fully explained. She thought of Tom, in hiding. She thought of her baby, who deserved a legacy of strength, not fear. I will do it, she said, but I want protection for Tom. Already arranged, Marcus assured her. Maria is working with agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They have been investigating Victor for years and are very interested in cooperative witnesses. This makes Richard a minor character in a much larger story. A strange calm settled over Sarah. The only way forward was to meet this threat head-on with the truth. For the next 4 hours, she worked with Marcus and Maria on her statement. Maria said the key was to sound like someone taking control, not someone who had lost it. The compliant woman she had been just 6 months ago felt like a stranger. As they finalized the draft, a thought surfaced. Why have Victor's sons waited so long to make their move? They could have come after your company years ago, she said to Marcus. Why target me now? I think I know, she continued. They needed to be certain Victor was never getting out of prison. His final appeal was denied, permanently, 6 months ago. For the first time in 25 years, they know he will die in prison. Maria nodded. Which means they can finally claim his empire, but only if they eliminate any other potential heirs first. You and any children you might have. Sarah placed a hand on her stomach. So this was always going to happen. Richard was just a convenient way to start. Marcus smiled, his expression fierce and proud. You know what I realized tonight? You have stopped thinking like someone being hunted. You have started thinking like someone who is hunting back. She had learned a harsh truth. To stop being the prey, you have to become the predator. Was that good? Or was it just survival? Sarah looked over the city, knowing that tomorrow, her story would change everything. She turned to her brother. Marcus, what if this backfires? What if we just become bigger targets? He took her hand. Then we face it together, out in the open, not hiding in the shadows. Promise me we will not let fear make our decisions anymore. His grip was warm and steady. I promise, he said. But you have to promise me something too. Sarah waited. Promise me that if it gets too dangerous, you will let me get you and the baby somewhere safe. Sarah saw the same protective instinct in his eyes that had forced their mother into making impossible choices 25 years ago. I promise my baby's safety always comes first, she said. But I will not hide while others fight my battles. Those days are over. Marcus nodded. Thursday morning was gray and cold. In the office bathroom, Sarah stared at her reflection. At 8 months pregnant, she felt like she was carrying the weight of the world. But the woman looking back was not the same one Richard had slapped 6 months ago. This woman was steady, and she was determined. The press conference was set for 10 a.m. The room was already buzzing with reporters and cameras, surrounded by a ring of security. You do not have to do this, Marcus said for the 10th time. We can find another way. Sarah shook her head. No, I am done letting other people control my future. Just then, Maria Santos appeared in the doorway, holding a tablet. Her expression was serious. The FBI just called, she said. Victor's sons made contact. They want to negotiate. Sarah's heart pounded. Negotiate what? They are offering to leave you alone for good, Maria explained. In exchange, you make a public statement giving up any claim to Victor Blackstone's assets. You also have to agree to never look into your mother's death. Marcus immediately cut in. Absolutely not. But Sarah held up a hand. It is not his decision. She looked at Maria. So they want a guarantee that I and my child will be left alone in exchange for my silence about my mother and any inheritance. Maria nodded. Essentially, yes. The offer was tempting, but Sarah saw the trap. What happens if I take the deal and later decide I want the truth anyway? Maria's look was grim. Then the deal is off. A sudden, hot anger flared inside Sarah. So they want me to choose fear and ignorance, just like my mother did, she said. They want me to pass that legacy of silence to my child. Marcus stepped closer. Sarah, think about this. This offer is safety for you and the baby. She shot back. This offer is exactly what got our family into this mess. Maria interrupted the rising tension. There is something else. The FBI thinks this offer means Victor's sons are scared. They would not be negotiating if they thought they could survive this story getting out. We have more leverage than we realized. The path forward became crystal clear. I am not taking their deal, Sarah said firmly. I will not trade my right to the truth for their promise to stop scaring us. And I will not teach my child that you handle bullies by giving them what they want. Before Marcus could argue, a knock came at the door. Helen, looking flustered, peeked in. Miss Mitchell, there is someone here to see you. He says he is your stepfather. Sarah's heart leaped. Tom? Is he safe? Helen nodded. He is with FBI agents, but he wants to speak with you alone for 5 minutes. Tom Wheeler looked older, the stress of the past few weeks etched on his face, but his gentle smile was the same one that had comforted her as a child. Sarah, sweetheart, you look beautiful, he said. She hugged him carefully. Tom, I was so worried. Are you okay? He nodded. I am safe, but I had to see you. I have to tell you some things that might change your mind. He handed her a thick manila envelope. Things I should have told you years ago. Inside were photos of her mother she had never seen, looking young and full of life. In one picture, her mother was laughing, standing beside a man Sarah did not know. Who is this? She asked. That is your mother with Detective James Morrison, Tom said. He was the police officer investigating Victor when she met him. He helped her plan your escape. Sarah stared at the photo, at a happiness she had never seen in her mother. She looks happy, she whispered. She was, Tom said. She had hoped that Victor could be stopped legally, but then Detective Morrison was killed. It was ruled a robbery, but your mother never believed that. A chill went through Sarah. She thought Victor had him killed. Tom pulled out an official police report. This was Detective Morrison's final report on Victor's organization. He was about to take it to a federal grand jury. Sarah scanned the pages, seeing words like money laundering and drug trafficking. Tom, why are you showing me this now? She asked. Because Detective Morrison had a partner, he said, an agent who has been unofficially working this case for 25 years. Agent Patricia Collins. She is downstairs right now with the FBI. She has been waiting for someone from your family to come forward. Sarah was trembling. This was not just about protecting herself anymore. It was about justice. I need you to tell me the truth, Tom. Do you think Mom's car accident was really an accident? His face was heavy, with 2.5 decades of guilt. No, sweetheart, he said softly. I do not think it was an accident at all. I think your mother was murdered because she refused to stop fighting for you. The words should have broken her. Instead, they forged her fear into steel. Her decision was no longer a choice. It was a duty. It was time to finish what she had started. Sarah stood up, placing a hand on her pregnant belly. She looked at Tom with a fierce determination that was exactly like her mother's. Let's go show the world, she said, what happens when you underestimate a Blackstone woman. The Blackstone Holdings conference room had been turned into something that looked like a courtroom. Cameras were focused on a podium, and the chairs were filled with reporters and law enforcement. Sarah stood there, looking at the faces that would carry her story to millions, and felt completely calm. Good morning, she began, her voice strong and clear. My name is Sarah Wheeler Mitchell. 6 months ago, I thought I knew who I was. I was a former teacher, married to a successful attorney, and expecting my first child. Today I am here to tell you what I learned about the difference between the life you think you have and the reality happening around you. She let the words sink in. I am here to talk about deception, financial manipulation, and how women are often treated like objects instead of people. I am here to talk about family secrets that were meant to protect, but only caused pain. Sarah looked right into the camera, thinking of all the women who might see themselves in her story. But mostly, I am here to talk about what happens when you stop letting other people write your story and you start telling it yourself. For the next 30 minutes, She laid out everything: Richard's manipulation, her connection to Marcus, the threats from Victor's crime family, and the lies that had defined her adult life. "I want to be clear about one thing," she said. As she concluded her speech, she said, "I am not asking for pity. I am a woman who discovered the people she trusted most had been lying to her for years. I chose to fight back instead of accepting their deception as the price for a comfortable life." The question and answer session was intense, but Sarah handled it. Telling her own story publicly felt liberating. The impact was immediate. Within 48 hours, Richard's law firm had fired him and started an investigation. The competency case against Sarah was dropped, and Richard filed for a quiet divorce, asking for very little. "He's trying to limit the damage," Maria explained. "He knows his dirty tricks are public record now, and he cannot risk them being examined in court." "What about the threats from Victor's sons?" Sarah asked. "Total silence," Maria replied. "Agent Collins believes the new attention makes it too risky for them to come after you." Sarah felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. "So, it's over?" "The immediate danger is gone, but there is more," Marcus said, walking in with a thick folder. "The FBI's investigation has uncovered enough to bring federal charges against 12 people, including Victor's sons. They think they can finally close decades-old cases, including Detective Morrison's murder." He revealed they had found financial records, showing payments to the man who killed him, traced directly back to Victor. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. "Mom was right. She was murdered for protecting us. She was murdered for refusing to let evil men control her family's future," Marcus gently corrected. "And because she fought, we now have the proof." "What happens to Victor?" Sarah asked. "He will die in prison no matter what," Marcus said. "But now his legacy will be a dismantled, criminal organization, not some myth about hidden fortunes." Sarah thought of the woman in the photographs, the mother who died protecting her children from a world of violence. "I want to do something," she said suddenly. "I want to start a foundation, something that helps women escape manipulative relationships and provides legal support to people uncovering dangerous family secrets." Marcus smiled. "How much are you thinking?" "Whatever it takes," Sarah declared. "I will use my inheritance from Victor's seized assets, plus whatever I get from Richard. I want to turn this nightmare into something good for other people." "What will you call it?" Sarah thought of her mother's bravery and Detective Morrison's sacrifice. "The Maria Morrison Foundation," she said, "for both of them, for truth and justice, and for the idea that no one should ever have to choose between their safety and their honesty." 6 weeks later, Sarah gave birth to a daughter. She named her Maria Rose Mitchell Blackstone, honoring her mother and the new family she had built. Marcus was in the delivery room, crying more than the baby. He was transformed, watching new life enter a world that was finally safe. "She's perfect," he whispered, holding his niece for the first time. "She is a Blackstone," Sarah replied, exhausted but happy. "She is going to change the world." The Foundation's first meeting was held in the same conference room where Sarah had told her story. 30 women were there, all survivors, all rebuilding their lives with truth. Have you ever realized the life you were living was a complete lie? For me, that moment came with the sting of a slap across my face. That single act of violence shattered a carefully constructed illusion and put me on a path to discovering a truth I never could have imagined. My story is about the devastating injustice of manipulation, but it is also about an underdog finding her voice. It is proof that the family you choose can be far stronger than the one you are born into. So, if you feel trapped, listen closely, because you have more choices than you think. A year later, I stood in that very same Manhattan restaurant. But this time, it was not for a tense dinner with my husband, Richard. It was for the first fundraising dinner for the Maria Morrison Foundation, named for the mother I barely knew. My daughter, little Maria, was now 10 months old and asleep in my brother Marcus's arms. He was the biggest surprise of all, the brother I never knew I had. He found me that horrible night, right after Richard hit me, and revealed that our entire lives had been separated and controlled by a dangerous man named Victor. Looking around the room, I saw women who, like me, had chosen truth over comfort. We were a community of survivors, women who had left abusive partners and fought for our children. We understood that healing does not happen in isolation. It happens when we share our stories and refuse to believe we deserve anything less than honesty and respect. The fight to get here was the most honest thing that had happened to me in years. Now we were building a legacy my mother dreamed of, but never got to see. Agent Patricia Collins from the Federal Bureau of Investigation approached me. She had been working my father's case for 25 years. "Because you came forward, Miss Mitchell," she said, "we finally closed Detective Morrison's case." It was a major revelation. The man who ordered my father's murder decades ago was Victor, the same man who had orchestrated my life from the shadows. Mom was right to be afraid of him. She had tried to protect us by keeping us apart, but she fought that battle all alone. The difference was, I was not alone. I had Marcus, and I lived in a time when people are more willing to listen to a woman's story. The agent explained that while they could not directly prove Victor ordered the hit, they had enough evidence to convict his men. 3 of Victor's sons were now serving federal sentences. We had disrupted their criminal organization, sending a clear message that they could no longer target families without consequences. It was a victory, even if not a final one. And what about Richard? He was serving 18 months in a minimum security prison for financial fraud. He would lose his law license and his money, but as the agent said, his future was no longer my problem. That felt like the biggest victory of all. Later, I spoke with a psychologist, Dr. Rebecca Martinez. She said that abusers all seem to follow the same playbook. They shower you with affection, then slowly tear down your self-confidence and cut you off from everyone you love. I told her they use these tactics because they exploit our basic human needs for love and security. The only defense is education and support. That is why the foundation mattered so much. I also realized that justice and healing are 2 different things. Justice happened when Richard went to prison and Victor's organization was dismantled. But my healing began when I started telling my own story, when I stopped letting others define my worth. Healing is a process you control on the inside. Justice depends on outside systems you cannot control. Too many survivors wait for justice before they allow themselves to heal, which just gives their abusers more power. As the evening ended, Marcus stood beside me, holding my sleeping daughter. He asked what I was thinking. I told him I was thinking about how different everything was. That night, 13 months ago, I had felt powerless, confused, and trapped. Tonight, I felt exactly where I was supposed to be. If I could give my former self any advice, I would tell her that the slap was not the worst part. The worst part was all the years she'd let someone treat her as less than equal because she thought it was normal. And the best thing? The slap finally made her angry enough to stop accepting the unacceptable. My mom would be proud of us. But more importantly, I was proud of myself. I was proud that we chose truth over convenience, that we fought back instead of hiding, and that we built something meaningful from the wreckage. We did not just survive, we created a new life, a new legacy, and a new definition of family. Sarah took her sleeping daughter from Marcus, amazed at how much hope a tiny person could hold. "What do you want for her?" Marcus asked. "I want her to know her own worth. I want her to know that love should make her feel bigger, not smaller. I want her to know she always has choices, even when they are hard. She continued, and if she ever faces what I faced, I want her to remember that her mother chose courage over comfort, that her uncle stood by her, and that her family's legacy is fighting back against those who use love as a weapon. Sarah looked around the restaurant, no longer seeing a place of humiliation, but a place of rebirth. I want her to know that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you leads to the very best thing. As they were leaving, Sarah noticed their waiter was the same young man from that terrible night. He approached their table with a kind smile. Miss Mitchell, I followed your story in the news. Your courage that night inspired me to finally leave an abusive relationship I was trapped in. Tears filled Sarah's eyes. I am so glad you are safe now. I am, he said. And I am applying to law school. I want to help people the way your foundation helped me find legal support. After he left, Marcus shook his head in wonder. You realize your story is creating ripples you will never even see, right? People you have never met are making better choices because you spoke up. Sarah looked down at her daughter, Maria, stirring in her arms, and thought about the future. That is the thing about truth, she said softly. Once you release it, it takes on a life of its own. It grows and changes things in ways you could never predict. Any regrets? Marcus asked. Sarah thought about the quiet, safe life she could have had if she had just accepted Richard's terms and disappeared. A small life, built on lies. No regrets, she said firmly. Only gratitude. I got the chance to become the person I was always meant to be. As they walked into the spring night, she felt a sense of peace. She had lost a false marriage, but gained a true family. She had given up the illusion of safety for the reality of strength. Most of all, she had learned that love was not something that happened to you, but something you build, one honest choice at a time. The rain had stopped, and the city lights sparkled. Sarah adjusted Maria's blanket and walked toward her new life, with her brother at her side and her future in her arms. Behind them, the restaurant buzzed with new stories and new beginnings. The woman who had just left had learned to turn pain into purpose, betrayal into wisdom, and silence into a voice that would help countless others find their own. Sarah Wheeler, Mitchell Blackstone had come full circle. But the circle was wider now, stronger, and built on a foundation of truth that could survive any storm. If Sarah's journey moved you, if you believe that every woman deserves to know her worth, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what moment in this story hit you the hardest. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, join our family. Because stories like this one have the power to change lives. Remember, you are not alone, and your voice matters more than you know. This content was carefully researched, developed and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful lessons and inspiration. Every story we share is crafted with purpose, to empower, to heal, and to remind you that your story matters too.